Okay friends, let's continue with your next tutorial. So this we are going to see what is your data reader and what is your data table. Okay, so what the data reader is going to do, what your data table is going to do, what is the role of each and everyone. Okay, so let's build each and everything from the scratch. So for this application we'll be needing button. Okay, and we'll be needing your list box. Now on the click of the button I should retrieve the data from your employee, I can say employee table. Okay, so the first thing what we need to do, we should have the connection for the employee. Then we will be having a data adapter. Okay, so it should be the connection, means the data adapter will play a role as a disconnected data. So whatever the data will be retrieved from the data adapter, it will be sent to your data set. Okay, and then data set will be sending this data to your data table, and from the data table we will be retrieving the data and will be storing it here. Okay, let's see how it is going to work. Okay, so first thing, we have to import your SQL client, system.data.sql client. Now inside the button we'll be writing each and everything from the scratch. So let's see, let's create an object, connection object as new SQL connection. Okay, and SQL connection has some constructor which accepts a string as a connection string. So let's see what is the connection string. We know the connection string, where we can find it. You can find it in your application config. This is your connection string, which because it hasn't been created because we have created the data set previously. Okay, so I'll be taking this data connection string, I'll be pasting it in your project. Okay, so this is your string. So I have the SQL connection. Now what I need a data adapter. Okay, so let's see what is a data adapter. Then data adapter as new SQL data adapter. Okay, and it accepts a parameter which is your SQL command, and then SQL command with your connection string. Okay, so what is the command for execution? I'll be just saying I just want to execute a command which will be retrieving all the data from your employee. So let's write a query. So like star from employee. So this is the query, and it will be using this executing this query using the connection con. Okay, so once we write these things, so this query will be executed and we using this connection, and all the data will be stored somewhere. Okay, let's see where we will store the data. For storing a data, let's have a data set. Okay, so we have created a data set. Now let's execute the query. So how to execute the query, or how to fill your data set? For filling the data set, let's write let's give the command to your data adapter that you have to fill a data set. Okay, so let's see, I'll be saying data adapter, you want to fill your data set. The data set's object is ds. Okay, so you have to fill the ds, and this ds will be having a table. Okay, so you can give any name to this table. So that table can be your temp, which we saw previously. It doesn't has to be the same name of the table which we are going to execute. Means we are trying to retrieve data from the employee, but while storing the data in your data set, the name of the table is not compulsory to remain same. You can change the name of the table. So what is going to happen, the copy of the actual table will be taken inside your ds, and the name of the table will be temp. Okay, all the attributes will remain same as it is. Okay, now we have filled your data set. Now what we are going to do, we are going to just have an data table. Okay, let's see, name data table as new data table. Now dt is equals to, I'll be saying this dt should be filled, or dt should be having all the things from the data set. So I'll be saying data set dot tables. What table? The data set can have a number of tables inside it, so which table I want to access? I want to access the table which is having a name called as temp, which we have given. Okay, so whatever the entries are there inside your temp table, it will be just copied inside your dt. Now I just want to retrieve, or I want to just show this data in your list view. Okay, so let's see how we can retrieve it. So this dt, if I want to retrieve a data from the dt, I have to say dt dot, and I will say dt dot table name, or I can say, just wait for a second, dt dot rows, and rows, which rows, I will say each and every row I want to retrieve it. Okay, then I'll be saying rows, and then you can say the rows integer, means I can retrieve the row from the data table. Okay, so we are going to just use your dt dot rows because it will be retrieving the whole rows, but I want to read these rows one by one. Okay, so let's see how we can retrieve it. I'll be using a for each loop. For each loop I'll be saying I just need a data row. So for data row, let's create an object for a data row. dt dim data row as new data row. Okay, for each dr in, I'll be saying from what I want to retrieve it. I'll be saying I want to retrieve it everything from the data table rows, means I want to take each and every row and I'll be storing it in your dr. Okay, so protected, it cannot be different, dt as data row. Okay, new will not work with it. So for each dr in dt dot rows, so I have retrieving the row one by one in your dr. So I'll be adding this row inside your list view. Oops, not list view, it's your list box one dot items dot add method. And what to add, I'll be saying I want to just add the dr, means it is a data row, and data row is having a number of columns. Okay, so how many columns I want to retrieve? Okay, so I'll be saying I want to retrieve a column who is having a name call as your employee underscore c. Here is the name of your columns, employee underscore id. I just want to retrieve it, and I'll be concatenating it with your VB tab. Okay, and I'll be again using a dr, and I'll be retrieving the second column value, which is nothing but emp underscore name. Okay, so this is the closing of your bracket. So every time what is going to happen, dt has full collection of the table. He will be retrieving rows one by one, and one by one the rows values will be sent to your dr. The dr stands for your data row, and I'll be retrieving the values from your data row uh, in cell by cell by your data row, and in bracket the name of the column. Okay, so let's execute it. Now let's use a form 4 as a starter form. Let's see, let's click here. See, this is how it works. If I click it one more time, it is getting appended. If you don't want to get everything to be appended, you have to just clear out the list before doing all those things. So after doing some declaration part, I'll be using list box 1 dot items dot clear. So all the items will get cleared. Okay, and let's see this is the data table. Let's see, does it works? Yeah, it works fine. Okay, we don't have to use your connection open and connection close here. Okay, because we are working with your data adapter. See what is going to happen here. You know what is your connection, means this is the SQL connection which will be used for connecting to your SQL server, and this is your data adapter, SQL data adapter, which will be playing a middle role for your connection, or you can say actual database and your front end. So what is going to happen, actual data from your database will be retrieved by your SQL data adapter. SQL data adapter will be executing this command, or I can say query, and he will be giving all the data to your front end. Okay, so when I get the full data to the front end, I don't have to access the database again and again. Once I retrieve the database, I can play with the data from the front end itself. Okay, so if I want to store it, we have seen these things in the previous tutorials, how to store the data using the same data adapter, how to get update your data adapter. So when I get the data back from your data adapter, it has to be stored somewhere. For storing this data, we will use a data set. For that, we have taken an object of your data set. Now what I'm going to do, I will be saying data adapter dot fill, means I will be saying data adapter to fill your DS. Okay, and this DS will be filled with the temporary, or I can say the actual values of your actual database, and that will be more similar to the same table which it is there in your database. Okay, and that database table will be renamed here, or I can give the same name. It really doesn't matter, but the thing is that whatever the name you give here, the same name you have to write for retrieving the values from your DS. Okay, so we have just filled your DS, and after filling your DS, we have copied all the rows, and I can say the full table in your data table. So if I want to copy the tables, I just will write the data table object is equals to ds dot tables, and which table I want to copy it in your dt, which will be the temp, the same name here. So after saving this data table in your dt, okay, then I want to retrieve all those things. How to retrieve all those things? If you want to retrieve all those things, the first thing you have to do, you have to extract row from your data table. For extracting the row, we will be taking a data type which is dr, which will work for your data row. So this is your dim dr as data row. So dr is an object of your data row. Okay, or I can say it is a data row. So what I am going to do, I'll be retrieving the rows from your DT, because DT contains many rows. I'll be retrieving rows one by one, and after retrieving the first row, I'll be saving this row inside your DR. This will work for full collection. Okay, if I don't know what is the depth of your uh, rows, I'll be writing all those things. Okay, see, if you want to work with your for loop, even the for loop will work. For, I will say I as integer is equals to from 0 to where I can say 0 to, I'll be saying dt dot rows dot count. Okay, so it will be giving me the count of the rows. I'll be saying -1, and the rest of the thing will remain same. It will be going to the last of the row, and it will be quitting it. Okay, but doing this thing is better for each loop, is better for me. Even I prefer this thing, because if there is any problem in indexing, so it will give me a runtime error. So better way, use a for each loop. It will implicitly handle all those things. It will go for each and every row, and it will retrieve the row. So one by one row will be retrieved, and it will be stored in a dr. So if it is a full row, each and every row has a cell. Okay, one row, if there is a one row, it might be having 5 to 6 cells. So if I want to retrieve a data from the specific cell, at that time I have to use a dr which is having a full row, and from that row I want to retrieve a value from the cell which is having the name employee ID. Okay, so the value of your employee ID in your data row will be retrieved. Okay, so I think you understood this concept. Okay, so this was working with your data adapter and your data table and data row. Okay, so it is much simple. Okay, now let's go to your form, and this was for your data adapter and your data table. Now we'll be working with your data reader. Okay, so let's take one more button and let's expand it somewhat. Okay, no issue. Then let's take your list box, then let's expand it. The same thing what we did it here, just the same thing we are going to do it with here, but with some other methods. Okay, so let's double click on your button. Now whatever the declaration we did it here, I'll be copying this connection because this is inside your private sub procedure, so this will be accessible only to this private sub procedure. There is a no it will be no conflict here in your second private sub procedure. Okay, so connection will be the same. After connection I'll be saying I need something to execute it. Okay, so I'll be saying I will be needing a SQL command reader. Okay, means a command reader will be needed plus your SQL command will be needed for executing the query. So I'll be using the dem SQL command as new SQL command. Okay, so this is the command which will be used for executing the query. Means the query will be executed and it will be uh, the query will be executed using a SQL command. Okay, so let's see what constructor does it access. So it has a four constructor. One is a default constructor, second use your a cmd text as a string. It means it will use a query. Means I can write the query here itself. Select star from employee, and it can also access your SQL connection, which is an object which is called as con. Okay, if you don't want to write this all these things, if you want to take the query from the user, even you can write the variable here, you can take the values from the user itself. Okay, so this is one of the method. I'll be commenting this and I'll be copying the same thing, and I'll be assigning the properties of your SQL command. Okay, I'll be just writing this SQL command, and after writing this SQL command I'll be saying sc dot command text is equals to the same query which we wrote before. Okay, so it should be in a string format. Sc dot connection, because this SQL command will also need this connection for executing the command text. Connection is equals to, I'll be saying which connection I want to use. I'll be saying the connection is con. Okay, so we have your SQL command and plus your SQL connection. Okay, so we have done each and everything. The command has to get executed. After executing this command, it has to be stored, the values or the table has to be stored somewhere else. Okay, for storing the data we'll be using your SQL command reader. Okay, let's use a dem SQL command reader as new SQL command SQL. I think it is a data reader. Okay, it's a SQL data reader. Okay, so it's not a command reader, it's actually the data reader. The data has been will be read by your SQL data reader. Okay, so it also doesn't access it doesn't it is just like an your data type. So it is an SQL data reader. So we have written a SQL data reader. Now the thing is that we want to execute a query. So for executing a query, we'll be saying sc, which is nothing but your SQL command dot execute reader. So this is going to execute the query. After executing the query, the output has to be stored somewhere. So we have written a SQL data reader, or we have created the object of your data reader. So we'll be storing all this thing in your data reader now. As SQL data reader is equals to sc dot execute reader. So whatever the things are there, whatever the output is there, it has been stored in your SQL data reader. Now the thing is that I just want to retrieve the data from your SQL data reader. So I'll be taking a while loop sdr dot read. I'll be saying read your SQL data reader till the end. Okay, so until and unless I will not get the end, it will read each and every line. Okay, so now let's add those things in your list. List box 2 dot items dot add, and the same format sdr, and then I can specify the index number, 0 index number, specify your employee underscore id, and one number defines your employee underscore name. You can give integer values, or you can give the string name of the column. If I say it like this, employee underscore id, it will work even ampersand vb tab. So I just need some tab in between, and I'll be saying sdr, which is SQL data reader, and I'll be saying I just want to retrieve the first index, means it is a zeroth, means it is the second index. Okay, second column, I just want to read the second column, and everything will work fine. Okay, let's see what we have missed it here. Okay, so this is that. Let's see. SDR first as integer. Okay, so SDR, then one means it is going to use an employee ID, and here I'm just giving the name of I can the ID, or I can say index of your column. So this is the second column. So before doing all these things, the first thing what we have to do, we have to open the connection, because for current thing the connection is not been opened. Okay, we can see all these things. If you want to check the connection, you can use this if condition, if con dot state is equals to connection is closed. Okay, if the connection is closed, then go inside, and then if I'll say after doing all these things, close your if. Okay, so if you have any problem here, means if the connection state is closed, then go inside and execute it. Means if this connection is closed, then only go inside. Okay, so after going inside in your if condition, you just have to open the connection, because the connection state has been closed, so we just have to open it. Okay, so it will be open, and then it will execute it. After executing all these things, we have to close your connection. But the thing is that if the connection is open, and if there is an error, runtime error here, what is going to happen? The connection will stay open. So for avoiding this, we'll be using a try and catch. Okay, they will be writing try, and we'll be writing finally directly, and I'll be writing and try. Okay, and in finally I'll be closing your connection, con dot close. So I'll be not using a catch, because I didn't want to catch any type of errors and all. If you want to catch the expression, if you want to catch any type of error, you can use a catch block also. Catch exe as an SQL exceptions, and just you want to throw whatever you want. If you want to throw a message box, you want to throw the message errors in your message box. Exe is an object working for it. Exe dot message. Okay, so message will be thrown. So let's see, does it works? Yeah, it's work fine. But what is the issue here? The thing is that before doing all this thing, once the list has been filled, again if you click on your button, what is going to happen? The list is again going to append all these things in your list view, or I can say list box. So before executing this, better you empty the list. So how to empty the list? List box 2 dot items dot clear, list is empty now. Okay, so this was your SQL command, how to work with your SQL command and is SQL data reader. Okay, now the thing is that we have directly used a query, but what if I want to take the input from the user? The user will be giving the input where he wants to search the name by some name. Okay, so let's use an input box for retrieving the value from the user. So I'll be taking one more variable here, dim, I can say par is called as parameter LC as string. Okay, and this string will be taken from your input box, and I'll be saying enter the name of the user. Okay, so it will prompt you the input box, and if you enter the name of the user which matches with the name of the user in your table, then we should execute it. I'll be saying whatever things are there in your uh, employee table. I just want to retrieve a one or two records which is I'll be using a where clause in short. Okay, so select star from an employee where emp underscore name is equals to, I'll be saying the name of the variable. Okay, so you can also take the name of the variable directly here itself using the concatenation operator. So this will be the query like this. If I want to search for ABC, so ABC should be taken. So this ABC has to be taken from your pair. Okay, so how to get this parameter? Okay, so we will be using a double quotes here, means this is one of the string and I'm concatenating the string and with your pair, and I'm again concatenating it with your ending of your string. Okay, so this is the two strings. I am just concatenating pair with it and pair with your single quotes, because actual query, if I will like to show you the actual query. So before executing all this thing, I want to see the query. So let's use a message box sc dot command text, I can say command text. I just want to see these things. Let's convert it to string. It is into string, it is in string, but let's see these things. Okay, then when I get the input box, let's see what is going to happen. Let's see what the users are there. I just want to retrieve NNN. Okay, when I click here, I'll get a prompt here which will be saying enter the name of the user. I'll be saying NNN, and when I click it OK, this will be the query which I will be executing. Select star from employee where employee name is equal to NNN. When I click here OK, the record from the table which will be retrieved, it will be shown in your list. Okay, now this is one of the pattern, and if you if you are not good in concatenating the strings, a better way you use the parameters. You have to use a symbol and symbol, and you will be using the name of the parameter. I'll be saying example is the t1 is the, or I can say p1 is the name of the parameter. So I have want to fill this parameter before executing this query. Okay, if I execute this query directly, it will give me an error. Okay, so he is saying major exception where you must declare the scalar value at the rate p1. So the p1 is the parameter, and I want to assign some value to that parameter. So before uh, executing this command, I'll be sending some value to this parameter. So how to send the values to the parameter? So sc is going to do all these things. Means sc is your SQL command. SQL command dot parameters dot add parameter with value, means add with value. So which parameter I want, this I want to send the value to which parameters, I'll be saying at the rate p1. At the rate p1 should be filled with the value which will be taken from your input box, which is stored in your par. Okay, the same thing is going to happen here, but the only thing we will be working with the parameters. Okay, so let's see. I'll be saying nnn, and that will be sent to your at the rate p1. See, so this is your query, and I'll be sending this actual things to your query, and this at the rate p1 will be getting replaced with your nnn, and this is your output. Okay. mm, okay, you got the idea how to work with the parameter with using your SQL command. Now the thing is that, let's see, if I'm writing it here, I'm writing nnn and then I'm clicking it OK, then let's click OK. I'll be getting in the value of nnn. If I write again, if I click it again, I'll again get a prompt, and again I'll be saying I want to x max. And when I click it OK, and when I click OK, I didn't got anything here. I'll be getting an error because the parameter which we are having here, it has already been used, but it is showing me the output which is max. If you don't want to get the conflict between the parameters, the same parameters will sending again and again. So better thing, before assigning the parameters to it, clear the parameters which are inside your SC. Okay, so parameters dot clear, and after clearing the parameters, you can assign the parameters to your uh, SQL command. Okay, so this is how your retrieving of the values will work. Now what if I want to update something in your actual database, I can say actual table. So let's work with your update query now. The same thing we are going to use, so let's copy all this thing, and what changes we are going to do, let's see. Okay, let's add one more button. Let's add uh, I don't need a list box here, just want to update it. But for updating, I'll be taking the input from the user. So that input will be from the user, means I'll be taking that input from the input box. I'll be directly taking the input from the input box. Okay, so let's see. Let's copy all these things. Let's paste it, and here there will be some changes. Here the command is going to change, so I'll be removing this command. I'll be keeping it empty for some time, and rest of the things I will keep same. I'll be commenting this message box for now, and even the I'll be removing list box too, and then I'll be removing your data reader because I don't need a data reader. Okay, actually there is no need of data reader because we are not going to read anything. Okay, so again also connection close. Let's stay, it should stay as it is. I'll be removing this while, and I'll be removing this data reader, and then rest of the things can remain same. Okay, so now let's see. I'll be using an update query or an insert query. Let's use an insert query. Okay, insert, update and delete is will be giving you an integer values in a return. Okay, so let's see. uh, let's use an insert query. Let's spin up this thing and let's write an insert query. Insert into name of the table is employee. Okay, then values will be the integer values, and also if I want to take it is an integer, if you want for to pass the integer values, I'll be saying at the rate, and I'll be saying your e number, and then I'll be saying using a comma. After using a comma, I'll be using a single quotes here. After using the single quotes, I'll be saying at the rate, and after at the rate I'll be saying e employee name. The better way, instead of writing the insert command, I'll be using an update command. So I have to enter many parameters here, so better way I'll be using an update command. Update employee set emp underscore name is equals to at the rate en, which is your employee name, where uh, emps name underscore s name is equals to at the rate ens. Okay, so now there are two parameters, so I'll be using the two input boxes. Let's use it. Okay, enter the name of the user and enter the s name of the user. Okay, so this is your pair 1. Now let's add those parameters. Okay, so this is your parameter p1. Here is was p1. Here I'll be writing en, so this is the first parameter, and the next parameter will be your ens as pair 1. Okay, so two parameters are added. Now we are going to just update the query. For updating the query, we will not write execute reader, we will write execute non-scalar. Okay, execute a non-query. Okay, so execute non-query means it will be working for your only rows which will get affected, means how many rows should get affected, how many rows should not get affected. So it will be returning the integer type. Okay, so if you want to convert it to the string, and just prompt whatever the things got updated, and afterwards you will be closing all those things. Let's see. Okay, let's first rate max, and so one more thing I'll be doing, I just want to know the surname. I don't remember all the surnames here, so here I'll be writing it too. Okay, I'll be saying Max. So retrieve the surname of Max. So what happened? It's I forget. Let's preview your data. Okay, let's use Cassie and Mark. I just want to change the employee name of the Cassie to Cassie1, where the employee s name is equal to Mark. Okay, I'll be saying Messi 1. Okay, it is the name of the user and S name is Mark. So one row got affected. Now let's see. Now this uh, messy one, I mean, say I can say the surname, the name, I can, the name got updated whose surname was Mark. Okay, so it is messy one now. Now let's write messy and let's click OK, and the surname is Mark, so he will be updating the record, only one record. Okay, so it is one record. Let's click on the button. See, you will able to see that is been changed. Okay, let's write messy. So this is the record of the message. Okay, okay, so I think you are clear with your SQL SQL command, SQL I can say SQL data reader. Okay, so this was the one of the session of your ADO.net. Okay, so thanks for viewing this tutorial. Let's have a last look here. This was our first form where we directly, without writing any code, we did we created all this form. We created this application. Okay, and this was the second form which was having the code for retrieving the data, but it was having a SQL command builder. Okay, how to work with the command builder we saw on all the tutorials. Some of second tutorial I think. Okay, then this was the fourth form which we have created right now, which was using your data adapter plus your data set and data table and data row. Okay, so all the concepts are clear here of your data adapter, data table and data row. And the next thing was your SQL command, which is used for executing the command, and the SQL command with parameters. And then we saw SQL data reader, how to read the data from your SQL data reader, and the rest of the things. And then we also saw the uh, SQL command or executor used for select queries especially, and execute non queries used for update, insert and delete. Okay, so thanks, bye bye.